Good cat.
Cat shenanigans aside, welcome to a new, I don't know, back Discord discreet at this point critique. Um,
For five FNAFs at Freddy's.
yeah, and once again we have a wonderful little guest star. If you'd like to introduce yourself and the film you've decided to subject us to.
Okay. Yes, my name is Vex. You'll probably know me for. I'm currently going through a rebrand. You'll probably most people will know me as Vaults of Extoth, which is the old name. I'm the one who does all the music for Diamanda and like
All the original music.
Fun, yes, all the fun covers and shit. And I decided that we should watch Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yes.
I'll be honest, I didn't hate it. It wasn't amazing or anything, but in the scale of things that I normally end up watching, thanks to Hagan, it's wasn't that bad.
Like the two shorts she subjected us to last weekend. But, yeah, I agree with Teddy. I was fully expecting it to be terrible, but no, it was actually decent.
Yeah. Like I obviously, like me being the only one out of all of us that had seen it before, like I remember I went to see it with my son in the cinema, and we both enjoyed it. Like, it's not one of those types of films, obviously, that's like a big head scratcher. Like, you've got to pay attention. It's very much a schlock B movie type thing, I guess. And I just found it enjoyable for what it was, but like there is potential for other. Sorry,
I've never played any of the games, and obviously this was the first time I've seen the film. About a quarter of the way through it, I already managed to work out almost everything that happened. I just
yeah, you did.
It wasn't deep. It was about as deep as a puddle, but it was still enjoyable.
Yeah. It's very much a film that, like, the way that I took it, and like me and Connor both viewed it, was it's a case of like the new watchers who don't know anything about FNAF lore. It's like, oh, it's a silly schlocky, like slightly horror, slightly funny film. People who know the lore and like or are into the games or whatever, it's a look, they did this, and look, they did that, and all that sort of stuff. Like, it's a spot the references, I guess, and enjoy the thing.
It's like a best of album.
Yeah, kinda.
The first live action Asterix film was like that.
Well, there are lots of films that take that approach, that do these sorts of reference heavy ones, where it is distracting. And I can say, as somebody who has no idea about Five Nights at Freddy, I didn't pick up on any of all this stuff, which means it was done well.
Yeah. Like, that's the good thing. A lot of it is like a lot of the way that it was done was like, it was very visual references, and like certain little things where if you're a fan, you're like, I saw that. Whereas if you're not familiar, it just, because a lot of the game is built on those old horror tropes anyway, it very much like leans into the, like, when you're not familiar with it, it's like the it's that trope that you see in horror movie number 16 of 52 or whatever, like if you were making a list, you know what I mean.
Yeah. It's like at one point one of the characters hides in a ball pit, and I jokingly says, no, don't do that, you'll go back in time.
Yep.
A reference to the novels and the newest game.
Yeah. Like, I forgot that was what the newest game was about. Yeah, but
actually a decent game.
I have been meaning to watch both Markiplier and MatPat playing it, and I haven't yet.
Yeah. But I suppose we should jump into the spoiler warning. Again, we're now going to talk about instances of the films that you may not know about if you're interested in watching the film. Pause, go watch the film, come back, see us. Or if you don't care, keep watching.
Mm-hmm.
Alright.
Got very excited when I saw who was starring in this because it's Juice from Future Man. That's the show that only I give a fuck about apparently on the internet.
I don't know if I know that show.
I'll send you trailers afterwards, or
Okay.
I will link Teddy to trailers so we can watch trailers on together, and you can be amused.
Awesome.
You are absolutely obsessed with that show.
It's great.
I mainly know Josh Hutcherson from the meme, like the I can't whistle. Yeah,
missed that
and
meme.
yeah, the whistly meme, and fucking what else was he in? Like I always get him confused. Like
He was in the what do you call it? The rebellious lady who's fighting the rich. She's got a bow and arrow and she's on fire. That one. Hunger Games.
Hunger Games, yeah.
She's
I
got a
thought I
bow
was
and
just
arrow
going to
and
show
she's
you
on
my age
fire.
because I was like, oh, he was in High School Musical or whatever. And I'm like, nope, that was Zac Efron.
It was only a few years ago, do you know what you're talking about?
Like,
There's things that caught me. There's a few scenes where he's in low light or he's lit from the side and he looks like a wish Pedro Pascal.
I
Do you just catch
don't-
that?
I guess.
There's like
Thinking
one
back
thing I popped over. Wait, what? It's like, oh right.
Thinking back to Pedro Pascal at that kind of age in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and I can sort of see it.
Yeah. That's what I was
Pedro
thinking of.
Pascal was in Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
Yeah, one episode. Remember that it was early in series 3 when Buffy is depressed in college and she meets up with this nice guy who's also depressed in college and he gets her into a vampire and then she kills him. Even though she's really sad about it. That was him.
Oh, fair enough.
That's why it was frying my head. There we are.
Right. But I do know that, like, with the film, talking about like scenes and stuff, going back to that, like the very first scene where you see the first security guard get axed, which, like, we talked about that whole, we kept like talking about that premise like during the whole thing anyway. Like, firstly, what I'll finish my first thought and then we'll get to that. So my first thought was like that opening bit was supposed to be Markiplier, but he was busy doing Iron Lung, so he couldn't. So they got some other guy to do it. But the main
Should have got Movie Bob. That would have been funny. It make no sense.
Random.
Like part of me wishes they'd got a different like YouTuber or
Yeah.
something. Yeah, maybe.
Jacksepticeye or IGP.
Well, to be
Yeah,
perfectly
it's like,
honest, I don't think
which
that
one-
should have been there at all.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like a fit, and we had no explanation as to why these security guards were being murdered. And not to mention just the disbelief of, okay, we're meant to assume that this has been happening. This wouldn't be the first security guard murdered, and yet nobody has noticed.
Well,
Yeah, I mean that
again,
was one of the things.
going under
Yeah,
the big
sorry.
spoilers here. The person who was getting them the job is the guy who is technically murdering him, so I'm assuming he's giving the job to people who will not be missed.
People don't get completely unmissed whenever they start a new job and they just happen to disappear after starting a new job.
Not if he doesn't
Yeah,
have an official paper trail.
I guess it's a
officially,
case of like
This person came to the
suspension of
career center and then
disbelief.
fucked off.
To be fair, that's the point of the video game, isn't it? That happens all the time. So it's the exact kind of dumb the game was. So it's
Yeah,
fine
yeah,
that it's in the film. My
Yeah.
my issue is that it sets up the animatronics being actually evil, and then it's like they're not. But they're trying to keep the opening part is lining up with the video game. With the rest of the film does not line up with the video game, so it doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
They're trying to have their cake and eat it too, with them being good kids, but also evil. And it's
the
like,
Yeah,
entire
well-
first third with the kids, or with the animatronics being evil and attacking the people breaking in and such. None of that should have been there. We should have opened this up with the misdirect that the kid, that the animatronics were good. They were like the imaginary friend. They were nice, friendly. And then there's the turn. Having evil, then good, then sort of good evil. It felt messy as all hell.
Mm.
It was messy as all hell, yes.
Also, imagine
I mean-
the extra horror if we had had the father believing they weren't evil, and then they become evil.
The older brother.
Versus,
Yeah.
whenever we started with us as an audience, even if
Oh, yeah,
it
yeah.
would have been anyway, because they knew that they were capable of true horror. If they hadn't established that, like there was a DS9 episode like that, wasn't there, where there was an imaginary friend who turned out to be evil, or was that?
That
No, that was
was-
Next Generation.
Yeah, dark page.
Yeah, so that would have been a much nicer approach. Starts and it's relatively benign, and then the imaginary friend turns evil and starts breaking shit.
Here's
That
one of
would
the
have been
Wait a sec, I'm wrong. Wait a sec,
Wait a
wait a sec, I'm wrong. It's not called Dark Page. That was one about Lieutenant Troy being very, very depressed. It's called Imaginary Friend.
Okay, you have to hand in your Star Trek card now.
I corrected myself.
Yeah, but you got it wrong first time.
But yeah, that's another horror movie trope. The kid has an imaginary friend that turns out to be real / a ghost, or
Yeah, true.
yeah.
But I mean, talking about the whole security thing, like, I don't know, like, part of me thinks that the way that they did it sort of works, but it needed a bit more in the tail end, because like at the beginning, it's like, oh, the security guard's being killed by the machines, and then like the people breaking in, they get killed, which is like, when you know like the premise of the games and stuff, you're like, oh, this is what those animatronics do. They just kill people. Like, that's a thing, which is why the idea of his little sister going in, Abby going in, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, they're nice to her, like, and they've turned nice, is like oh, that's a weird subversion. But then them going back evil again is the bit that needed a bit more like clarification.
Well, if you go by the
It
game
needed a bit
lore,
more.
makes sense. Because if you go by the game lore, I think it's the second one that introduces the concept of like the facial recognition for the children. And there was like in-lore messages that the animatronics are always very friendly to children, but openly hostile to adults.
Yeah. But I think it's like what we said, where when we were talking about it while watching, where it was like, oh, the whole premise is they always attack the security guard because they associate that, like in the games, they associate that with that position with one of the murderers. Oh, spoilers for the games, because that's but because that's not really delved into, it's just like,
I think you need a
oh,
thesis in
they're bad
criminology.
until that bit where Abby's like, oh, by the way, my imaginary friends are ghosts that are in the robots, and then they're like, oh, okay, and then they're fine for a bit, and then all of a sudden they go bad again, and you're like, I have no idea where this. And this is after they've all been nice to each other and spent a 3-hour montage making a giant fort to the sound of what was the song called? It was the Elastica song that I looked up, Connections by Elastica. That I thought was Eddie Grant, because it samples the "Oi" thing.
They must have had it on a loop for 3 hours.
Yes.
Hey,
No
never
wonder the
underestimate
robots
the
went
power
mad.
of a montage. Because at the start of that scene, he was real concerned about these robots being around his little sister. And after the montage, totally cool leaving her alone with him to chase after Vanessa. The sexy cop.
And yet in that same scene with Vanessa, he's horrified at the danger of the animatronics again. Even though he's just left her alone with them. But yeah, I agree, it would have been nice if either it started evil and went good and stayed good, or started good and went evil and stayed evil. Could have had the start with them evil, but then they actually turned out to be good, and then they're being controlled or directed, which is sort of what they did, but stick with they're good.
Yeah, it wasn't. I they said it wasn't like signposted that was what they were doing until the very end, where Vanessa's like, "Oh, it's William Afton. He's controlling them," and it's like, how?
Yeah,
Like,
how
it
indeed.
doesn't explain. Which is one of the reasons why, like, seeing as they were introducing Vanessa anyway, they could have gone the security breach route. Which spoilers for security breach, I guess, because I mean we're talking about the whole franchise. Fuck it, spoilers for everything.
Including
So-
Winter Willy's Wonderland.
Yeah, and the Banana Splits movie. um, but
What are they gonna
like,
do with all these exotic butters?
God.
And the evil within. It had evil animatronics too.
Oh Jesus. What was I? Oh, I remember what I was saying. Sorry. Like in Security Breach, like the whole premise is like one of the animatronics is on the side of the kid, and then all the rest of them are still foes. So they could have gone that route. So like the Freddy animatronic ends up being on the side of like Vanessa. Like, I mean, Vanessa's the antagonist in that game, but like, you know what I mean. They could have had one of them do the good turn, and then the rest of them still be like, "Oh, you've come into our pizzeria. Let's eat you." And fucking like, I know, like part of it as well is just the fact, like, as much as during the thing, I did say that like, oh, this would benefit from like a higher rated like cut of it where you could actually get away with gore and stuff, which is basically what you'd watch Willy's Wonderland for, I guess. The thing is with that, like, because of the way the animatronics are designed, in a game, like through I'm waving my hand and realize that none of you can see that. Like
the hazards of the
through
YouTuber.
yes, like through wavy static, basically, like when you're looking at them through the little monitors, and then all of a sudden they jump up and go. Which I did appreciate that in the film they did use the actual sound effect from the game, which was fun. But you can get a bit more like of the shock value out of it, whereas in the film, because we're around them for a lot more, they kind of look a bit goofy, especially the best one of the best descriptions I've ever seen of those animatronics is when in Kadikarus's video that he did about like old horror games, when he mentions Five Nights at Freddy's, and specifically the way that Chica always has that stupid grin on her face, so she looks like she's going hi every single time you see her. Like, you can't get threatened by that. So
at least they didn't have the human teeth issue.
I guess.
What I will say about the animatronics is that they did look, for the most part, good. There were sometimes they would move at the wrong angle and it would look goofy as all hell, like that sudden turn and him jumping behind some boxes in the finale.
Oh yeah,
that
when they were performing.
Yeah, the Batman turn.
But the movements particularly I liked when they were going after people, and that was one thing I didn't like about the finale. They did away with a lot of that horror movement, almost zombie-ness of it's a force of nature coming and you just can't get away. But yeah, I like those parts, particularly whenever the opening sequence with the security guard, and also when the burglars were also being murdered was very nice.
Yeah.
Like, they kind of negated the threat too easily at the end. Like, if there was a sequence where they were hiding in the security office and he had to watch where they were coming from the monitors for a little bit, that would have been a bit fun, I think. Are you having fun there? Should I put someone else on the big screen?
Remixing
I realize that I'm on the big thing, so I was trying to amuse everyone. But also, I've been all like, I got something to say for like 25 minutes and I not say it. Hmm.
Sorry.
Oh, what are you trying to
I
say, my dear?
Basically, from a film perspective, I think it would have been far more impactful if they stripped it down and you'd had it so you got one guy, he's got to have the guard job and he's really, 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 sort of desperate straight. And so he does the 5 nights, but then it's like make it more like the game, or at least as I understand the game works. First night, things are like a little bit weird. Second night, weirder. Third night is more frightening. It's only like night 4 and 5 when things. It's only night 5 when things actually get dangerous for him, but sort of build the whole thing up over several nights and
hmm
make him like he's got a serious drug addiction or something. And I think that would have worked better just as a self-contained film.
Could have
Yeah,
Yeah.
the
played
idea
with
of
the sleep deprivation in that regard. You could have had
Mhm.
him play into that, and it was actually sleep deprivation. He was seeing things and so on.
Yeah, I get the
Yeah.
feeling that
Yeah,
someone just wanted to make a PG Nightmare on Elm Street.
yeah.
The
I mean,
dream.
it's one of those.
Sorry, go ahead.
It's like no, it's okay. It's one of those things where it's like because of the FNAF lore being so fucking huge at this point, basically, and like having so many things to pull from, they'd be like, okay, well, we need this that the FNAF audience will recognize, but we need this and this and this, and like you say, it could have been done with stripping back to okay, this is the first film in what would possibly be a franchise. Well, I think they've
Yeah.
confirmed it's going to have a sequel. So we should base it entirely on the first game and have it be more like uh teenagers' first psychological horror, I guess.
Like yeah, like suppose to make it closest analogy I can think of would be an even more minimalist version of The Shining. But
Yeah.
you've got just Jack Nicholson by himself in the Overlook, but with monsters.
Mhm.
But the trick would be, I suppose, for that one, for the fans, would be not to fuck up the lore. Keep yourself inside the lore, just don't go into it.
Yeah.
I think sister location setting would work better for that because he doesn't just sit in the office. He has to go and actually do like little jobs around the place.
True. That could work.
Sister
Yeah,
location
take
probably
take
work better for that kind of plot.
take those elements, yeah, because that makes sense for a guard, it would be doing that.
Yeah. And then every time he has to go and like do maintenance on these robots, there's just something wrong with them. And eventually he gets so sick of the smell he opens up the chest cavity and there's like just like the little body.
And the when you think about little things wrong with them in The Shining, one of the interesting little bits of it, which is not really noticed generally, every single time, um, all throughout the film, basically there's inconsistencies with location, but also with where items are, and little things like that. Like anytime there's a ghost in the scene, like the chairs have moved between shots, but only subtly, so you don't notice it unless you take screenshots and put them on top of each other. You could have done something like that. So it's like the models are in the wrong place, and then it gets more and more obvious on each night until he finally realizes it, that kind of thing. It would have to be done incredibly skillfully, or it would be terrible.
Hmm. Right, I have a question here, and I want to just verify if it's that as dumb as I think it is, or I just missed something.
Oh?
Early on in the film, whenever the totally not bad guy who actually was the bad guy gave him the job, he reacted to the guy's name.
Mm-hmm.
Was there anything about that I missed? Or
He recognized the name because he killed the little brother.
He didn't kill the little brother?
Yeah, he did.
No, he didn't.
It was confirmed that Afton was the one who kidnapped the little brother.
Okay, so that is the connection I didn't
Yeah.
make.
Yeah.
No, I made
little-
the fact that he was the murderer, but the reaction that he reacted to the name for that reason,
Yeah.
I didn't make
It's like the thing that
So,
actually
I was an
confirms
idiot.
it is in every memory that he sees his little brother, he has his toy plane, and then that exact toy plane is in a photo with young Vanessa and her dad.
Wouldn't it be nice if that photo, that toy plane was in the background of that opening scene?
Maybe. But see, then there was other things that haven't been found.
So I have a separate thing. So in the finale, I believe Hagen, you mentioned no, it was Nicola. You mentioned that he would have been arrested for appearing with the girl who had been stabbed, who was unconscious. We're also completely glossing over the fact that there was a woman apparently appears to have been murdered in his house as well that same evening.
Aunt who
he was having an active legal case against.
Having a legal case against, yes. Aw, I just moved the camera to get you in the shot.
A tad suspicious, don't you think?
Plus, he assaulted that guy at the very start and didn't get arrested. So, clearly there is a little law in this place that guys who are played by Josh Hutcherson don't get arrested.
Then again, like that scene at the beginning where he assaulted a guy, he was also like doing a job as a security guard, and they're more likely to get away with that kind of shit. Not to get political, but
the guy would have got a payout from the mall, and he would have got sacked, and it all would have been pushed under the rug.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly about those things, I don't think the guards in the mall in America are legally allowed to touch people.
Depends on the state, I think.
Okay.
It should also be wearing more obvious dress, because it was not very obviously security.
Nope. He was wearing basically a sweatshirt with security on the back of it.
Yes. I was going to say as well, to be fair, with the whole, like, he'd be under suspicion for murder of his aunt in the house. That he's got no way of knowing it, but we know that the lawyer that she was going to hire also sat at a table and listened to her and two people she hired like come up with the idea of breaking into the thing so he would lose his job and talk about possibly killing him. So
and then they all magically
disappeared.
Yeah.
His long-term babysitter has also disappeared under mysterious circumstances. How is this man not in prison?
I think the other guy, the lawyer's probably hiding under his desk, afraid he's going to get murdered next.
Yeah, probably.
Was he even mentally present in half the film?
Yeah. Plus the fact that apparently the only police officer in the place is now in a coma. So, they don't have anyone to arrest him anyway. I mean, she was also the one that was like, hey, those criminals, they broke in. They weren't innocent. Like, that's why the animatronics ate them. By the way, if you bring your little sister here again, I'm gonna shoot you. Which, like. It's like maybe she gets it from a dad, to be fair.
Everyone in this film, they seems to have a big through line of either being way too dramatic with punishment or not dramatic enough.
Yeah.
Calm down, movie. You can find a happy medium.
Yeah, it's one of those things, like you say, where it's very much like turn your brain off for some of these tropes because they're pushing a bit. Kind of thing.
Yeah. I found the guy's dramatic backstory with his little brother, well, first of all, incredibly ham-fisted and pushed in your face. But I also don't really believe the timeline. Like, we're meant to believe that this guy who's in his, late 30s? Is still so incredibly haunted by one action when he was like 7 years old that he can't sleep.
Well, he looked 13, 15.
Okay, even if we do that, we're still 25 years later. Like, it's not great, but people move on. I don't understand why the script didn't just make it his son and the girl his daughter. So we're literally talking 2 or 3 years later, and he's in depression, and the woman trying to take the kid is actually his ex-wife.
It's I mean, that's a possibility. I do think I felt with that, and again, it's something that they probably could have made a bit clearer, that because his mom basically said, "Hey, you watch your little brother," and then as soon as he has to watch his little brother gets kidnapped. Like, I presumed like he was still feeling that because he blames himself for his brother getting kidnapped. But then it's like you say, because it's been that long, and he's like, "Oh, I've been having this same dream every night trying to remember it." It's like, I don't know how much of that is like actually what happened, and how much of it is like him like making it bigger in his head, which again could have been a good thing that they could have played with. But saying that, they could have just not made the thing complicated in the first place and had him just be a lone guy that was that ended up working in the place and then got visited by ghosts in his dreams, because like that happened anyway. They didn't have to add the extra thing of, by the way, like this happened.
His little brother, did he end up inside one of the animatronics or not?
No.
Why
The
did
ones
he?
in the
Did,
animatronics are ones who were basically kidnapped and killed in Freddy's while he was dressed up as a mascot.
I, did, did, then that's just bad screenwriting.
But
They
why
should
did
have had this.
the ghost know what happened then?
The son, the brother should have been one of the ones who's like under the thrall or whatever, and makes friends with the little sister because of familial connection. This is really obvious.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this
Like
Well,
is
basic
one of the
storytelling.
online theories I saw is that he's in Balloon Boy, but I don't really
then
see much
like
logic in that. That would explain why he
it's
like jump scared the guy twice.
yeah, but then again, it's like how in the film they're like, okay, well, there's the five souls of the five kids, and they're in Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, and the cupcake. Whereas obviously in the games, they're not. There's no one in a fucking cupcake. It's Golden Freddy
And
in
the
the
puppet.
game.
Obviously.
Yeah.
See, the puppet would have been an interesting character to bring into this one.
Yes, which
Because-
is what I would have thought, because then they could have done that, and then they could bring the brother in as like another fucking, like, I don't know, like at the end it's like fucking Ennard or some shit, like some weird fucking thing made out of like the endoskeletons or whatever. Like where it's like, oh fuck, your brother was here the whole time. He's just been like
Your brother was inside Gulf Ditto the whole time.
Yeah.
Because the puppet was actually a calming presence for the robots. If you go by the lore, the puppet is the one who physically attached the spirits to the suits, because the puppet was, I think, was either the first or one of the first victims of Afton.
Yeah,
and they, quote unquote, saved the others by attaching their souls to the animatronics.
Mm-hmm. So then you could have had the thing where, like, going back to what we were talking about earlier, where the animatronics aren't turning good, but instead it's the puppet, like, being that calming presence, like, because he's had the dream where the child from the puppets talked to him or whatever. At which point, at which point you're veering into, I guess, what's the film with the fucking haunted doll? Like, a billion
Annabelle?
of them. Not Annabelle's the one I'm thinking of. Yes.
There have been a billion.
Yeah. Because I immediately realized, oh wait, Chucky also technically meets that, and that's the exact opposite of what I'm trying to imply the doll's doing. I mean, to be fair, Annabelle does the killing as well, doesn't?
And there's Robert the doll as well, based on the, frankly, much more horror movie friendly the story connected to the Robert doll in Florida is far more cinematic than the story connected to the Annabelle doll in Connecticut. We talk
Yeah.
about the real dolls, which they base the films on, even though,
Yep.
clearly they're just fucking dolls.
I hate those things. I have borderline atomophobia.
I mean,
Mannequins and porcelain faced dolls. Nope.
To be
I mean-
fair, to be fair, neither of those in real life are those. Annabelle is literally just a Raggedy Ann doll, which looks far more frightening than a porcelain doll to me. The porcelain one just looks like it's trying too much to look like a horror movie character, and the
Yes.
Robert doll just looks like an old school stuffed teddy bear, but like a human and in a sailor suit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But speaking of porcelain dolls, I did like that when they were like, "Oh, we've got your sister. Let's put her in a thing." It was like clearly an attempt at Baby. I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
So they could get in another character, but again, it's a case of like because they had enough souls, they could have like it could have easily been like instead of his little brother missing, maybe change that to his little sister or something. And they've had another girl in the meantime or whatever, or like just have his sister missing and then she's Baby, and then that's how he's like, and then it's like, oh, your sister was here the whole time, woo.
See, that kind of works with the
something.
puppet. The puppet could have been like his little brother, and then obviously
Yeah.
because he's been dead for so long, he forgot who he was until little sister draws the picture and sticks it to the magical memory wall.
Yeah, I did. It
Well,
was
getting from this-
that Abby does draw fucking fast, like
Well,
that.
what I'm getting from this is that the writer really should have taken another crack at this, either from a movie perspective or a lore perspective or a both perspective, or just from a making sense perspective.
Well, I reckon they were working off the cliff notes. It's not like they sat down and wrote a thesis on the lore like Matt Pat did, and he just lost his fucking sanity over it.
Could have just borrowed that.
Yeah.
Okay, lore people, I have a
I mean, Matt
question
Pat
for
was
you.
clearly on the.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say Matt Pat was on the set. They could have asked him.
Yeah.
What they should have done is this. I'm very firmly about this. Not just this, like Doctor Who, Star Trek, Star Wars. They should have an in-house nerd whose job is to know the lore, so they can quiz to make sure they get the details right. Who doesn't get any say in how you write it, but but they can make suggestions. But say we've written this thing, and you'll be like, that's slightly wrong. If you change this name to that, and if you change that number to that, it'll fit it with the lore, and the story won't be affected. So if the nerd has some sort of ability to write, but not allowed to write themselves, just with how story works, and they know the lore, you should have someone there, because then you're just making your show and you're not pissing off the fans.
And that is one thing that I do like about like what Critical Role do with their shit. Like
I was
now
just
that they're
thinking that too with Danny Carr.
Yeah, exactly. Like her being lawkeeper. So then, like in between the campaigns, like obviously Matt Mercer knows shit as well. But like when he's like, "Oh, I'm not sure right now," Danny can look something up for them while they're doing whatever, and then like you say, they've always got that one person who's like, okay, well, this is the law for this thing. If you're looking into that, you want to connect it to this, it's going to have to involve whatever. I mean, it probably doesn't help that the entirety of the games, like as Scott's been doing them, he's just made it up as he went along. So now the lore is so convoluted because he just keeps making shit up and just hoping for the best. It's like the whole thing with the fucking locked chest where it turned out where it's like, oh, what's in the locked chest? And then he's like, I don't fucking know. I gave up on that plot thread ages ago.
I think his thing was basically this is just like there are some things that just cannot be answered. The locked chest represents that because people kept picking at it. He was like, no, you missed the point.
Yeah, to be fair, that's all Lord of the Rings in the film, really, and that he deliberately didn't think about. Like, what is Tom Bombadil, and what are the nameless, crawling things that Gandalf witnessed under when he fought the Balrog, in the earth. What he thought there, he's just like, I'm not going to think about that. The world needs mystery.
Mm.
But yeah, for a quick context for those who don't know, Critical Role, the massive RPG where they have their own canon campaign setting, they have an employee whose job it is specifically to keep track of all of the lore and write summaries of the sessions to basically maintain the knowledge base of everything that they learn, quote unquote, during the campaign. It is a full-time job.
There's people that okay, there's people out there who are into like nerd things who seem to have a severe dislike of making things consistent. Like they get angry at the idea as though it's anti-creative to have things set in the same universe line up with each other. And I get the feeling that they started out by being pissed off at the assholes who were annoyed at, say, women suddenly being involved in something, and they're saying that's against the law, that kind of asshole. And so they were rightfully pissed off at them, but they seem to have just made they seem to have just made like a point of pride just to not understand how fiction works by saying that consistency is somehow bad.
Yeah. Look at my D&D campaigns. They're all technically in different settings, but they have NPCs who cross over.
Yeah. Hold on, I'll be back in a second. I just need to go and check on Grandma.
Cool.
Okay.
Well, and while let me just ask more things. So the ghosts.
Yes.
In the game, were these ghosts appearing in dreams
Nope.
and able to hurt people?
The dream thing is entirely new.
Like, I mean, you've got the animatronics causing
it's creepy.
damage and being able to attack. Why in God's name did they have them supposedly causing damage in dreams? And what was with the going back in time shit?
I'm pretty sure they were just planning to kill him and let him have that dream.
Entirely unnecessary.
But yeah, I'm pretty sure that the director just wanted to do a PG version of Nightmare on Elm Street. But yeah,
Talking about Nightmare on Elm Street.
That's pretty sure what I thought they were planning on doing, because they were on the way to kill him anyway. So my thought was that they were just going to let him sleep, enjoy that dream ending the way that he wanted to end, and then just kill him before he wakes up.
Talk about Nightmare on Elm Street. According to TikTok, Freddy Krueger, unlike the Art the Clown from Terrifier, would never harm children. Noted child murderer Freddy Krueger, heavily insinuated to be a sex offender.
Yeah, I was going to question that.
Who is canonically a child rapist in the remake. Oh, some people didn't watch the films before they made their little talk video.
Yeah, we have bitched about the lore and such a little bit too much, so let's do a little wrap up on what we usually do.
I'm back.
Hello, welcome back.
Hi.
Visuals, set design, costumes. Any comments?
It looks appropriate.
Yeah, I think we did mention that in the actual pizzeria, like the camera angles and like the way that they constructed the corridors and stuff looked very game accurate. And like I was saying earlier, the animatronics do look game accurate. It's just like once you get an actual film camera next to them compared to grainy security camera footage,
yeah, considering
kind of changes your vision of it.
We rarely actually see them move in the game, so having them move around in a 3D space is a bit... That looks weird.
Yeah.
Any comments from you, Diddy?
Yeah, I thought it was mostly solid. The sets were good. The animatronics were mostly good. Sometimes a little goofy. I particularly liked the horror movements. Yeah, so I was relatively happy with that.
Metal the sound design was alright. The Foley wasn't fantastic, but it still worked out quite well. There was very little in the way of music.
Opening theme?
The opening theme was a surprising banger. It was brilliant.
Yeah. I'm getting that on Spotify when this is over.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did like the sometimes when it did have a bit of music, it had that 80s sort of synthy vibe, you know, like sort of like whoever, I don't know who they got to do the soundtrack. I should probably check, but they basically told the guy like, okay, pretend to be John Carpenter. So, which
You could have probably
I
got
mean,
John Carpenter. The guy mostly does music now and gaming,
yeah,
so you may well like Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yeah, and
I was gonna,
definite shout. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, and no, I've seen him live before, which was
Cool.
fun.
And also, major props to using one of the biggest fan songs for the credits, "Wooden Toaster," Five Nights at Freddy's. I love
Living
that
Tombstone.
song.
That was great. The fact that that got to be put in the end, like I was hoping that would be, because obviously, like that was Living Tombstone's breakout song, being about the original game. The Newton brothers, that's who scored it. But yeah, the Living Tombstone being able to, like, for it to come full circle and use that as the ending theme. Hopefully that means, like, for the future sequels, they will just keep doing that. Although it's sort of done, it started on another lap, because I did find out from my son that since then, Living Tombstone have done a song about the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. So
I should check that out.
So, but I'm
I've mixed it up
hoping
with
like
another song. Wooden Toaster, I think, collaborated with Living Tombstone for, I think it was maybe a Five Nights at Freddy's sister location song or two.
maybe
I can't remember. I remember they collaborated, and I couldn't remember if he helped out with the original song, but it was Living Tombstone. So there you are. One of my little pet peeves showed up is that damn truck sound effect that is in fucking everything. It's
Which one?
You know that brr, brr.
Oh,
That's truck sound effect. The only truck sound effect aside from just blaring the horn. It's like the Wilhelm scream. It's just like, that just takes you straight out of the film.
Yeah.
the Wilhelm scream of trucks.
Yeah. Like the random cat screech that's always used as well. There's certain stock sound effects that are just in fucking everything.
Like when
You could unite those two things, having a big truck, big vehicle, and a cat sound effect, mix them together with the fact that you've got, random jump scares in this, and create one of the iconic moments from 1940s film Cat People, which features the first example of a jump scare with sound involving a cat. But it's the sound of a cat mixed over with a bus, and it's actually considered one of the great scares of a 1940s horror movie.
Oh, okay.
Film history.
I'll be honest. Like when I hear that truck sound, it makes me think of the remake of The Wicker Man, just because of like the guy's phobia of like trucks, I guess, where he's just like, where Nicolas Cage will just look out of a window and then he'll see like memories of that girl, and then she'll just turn around and you just hear, and then just fucking truck appears out of nowhere.
I don't remember that. I have to rewatch that film now.
Yeah, like it was like I remember like there's one point where, because he's having dreams about it, but then there's one where he's having a daydream and this happens while he's on a ferry. So like this like he looks out the window onto the deck and you see this girl stood on the deck and she turns around, you just hear, and then this truck plows across the deck of the ferry and smashes into.
Sounds memorable, but it mustn't be because I forgot.
I mean, this is the same film where Nicolas Cage dressed as a bear and punched someone. So
I remember that.
Yeah. And then obviously bees.
That's bees.
But yeah.
Alright, so the writing is decent. They kind of skewered off the lore, but I'm not going to complain. They made an alright film. Wasn't really a fan of the dreams, the dream sequences, and the what happens in dreams happens in real life stuff. But
Well, like we said, like that giant thing that we were talking about earlier, like there are plenty of ways where if you wanted it to be more consistent, like if we were making it, we would have done it differently. But as just a turn your brain off, hey, look, this is a film about animatronics killing people. It works. It's fine. It gets away with it.
It's an
It's
alright film.
it's definitely one of the better video game adaptations.
Hmm.
We still don't have a good track record.
Could have been worse. Could have been the Doom one.
Or an Uwe Boll film.
If the Doom movie had just been the first person shooting sort of thing, you know, with a silent protagonist just killing things in first person thing in hell, that would have been a pretty decent art house film.
Yeah. I mean, the whole thing that annoyed me about the Doom film was the fact that they were like, oh, it can't be about accidentally opening a portal to hell. We've got to add some weird DNA thing to do with aliens. It's like, why?
Why?
Yeah,
Just
Write about hell.
The plot
You're
to Doom is pretty
genetically
simple.
evil.
Rip and tear until it is done.
It
You're,
wasn't
you're,
even that at
gen-
that point.
if you're genetically evil, you'll get turned into a monster. Yet one of the guys who's genetically evil and turns into a monster kills himself out of horror of what he has become, therefore indicating he's not actually evil. It's a dumb movie, Doom.
Sounds like the logic
Either
they
that or
used
you're-
in Devilman Crybaby. People turn into monsters when they're unsatisfied with life.
So I do believe we need to wrap this up
Yeah.
as the time is well ticking.
Oh yeah, we've
Oh,
been
sorry.
nattering about this for a while. Us two know the lore, and we were just nattering about that. Those two were along for the ride, apparently.
Fair enough.
There's me being all like, "Oh, I'm going to discuss this as a film in this, film discussion thing. Ooh, look at me, all hoity-toity."
Well, nah. For once, I'm knowledgeable. Let me have this. But anyway, any final thoughts? Anything you want to add before we wrap up?
Always fun to see Matthew Lillard turn up and stuff. I'm hoping he turns up in another stream one eventually because it's been rumored since like day 2 since the first one came out that he somehow survived. Pretty obvious to make him the villain though. They did not hide him being the villain well at all.
No. It's very obvious when you first meet him, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, with that wrapping up, we've had our wonderful guest. If you'd like to shout out your socials or anything you'd like to share.
Right. So, best place to find me, like I said, I'm currently going through a rebrand. So it's Vex_VT, Vex spelt with a 3, and like V3XXE_VT on Twitter. I refuse to use its other name. It's also over on Twitch, where I've been like doing streams of like making music and playing random shit and stuff. And yeah, I think most music stuff that I do from now on as well. If you go to and this music label website that I made for me and my friends, based on a weird in-joke about Art Tangent Festival. So if you go to Bixlerat3, spelled Bixlerat, the number 3.uk, that's where all my music stuff will be put up for purchase in future. Or you can support Amanda Hagan's Patreon.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
So yeah,
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank
We'll
you
make
for
sure to
having
add
me.
your details in the doodly doo as well. So
Oh yes, I will send you my updated shit.
Yes, send me stuff and I will put it in the thing.
So yeah, if you want to check out their music or their streams, just down in the doodly doo, I would recommend it. Their music is amazing. Let's bring
Thank
Hagan
you.
back up to the big screen. So then, thank you again for watching. I'm sorry we ranted for just under an hour about Five Nights at Freddy's.
Unusually long.
Yeah. So, usual shenanigans.
Sorry.
Like, subscribe, throw your suggestions, comments, witty barbs.
Yes.
Suggestions of what to throw at Teddy.
Smash that bell!
Oh.
I forgot you two were in the same room.
Yep. Remember to check out the Patreon. Love you guys, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye!